Well, hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome into the SMITE 2 Founders Series Knockout LAN. It's going to be a fun one. Yesterday, we had a blast, 4 best-of-3s, a lot of games. Today, we're doing the same thing, 4 best-of-3s, a lot of games, 2 groups, and only, well, I guess 3 teams, 6 teams total move forward. My name's Gormizer over there. That's Trelly, who's going to be sitting with me on this one as we start to break down and break into what is going on in the LAN, just in those booths down the hallway. And of course, what's been going on with where these players are headed and what their primary goal is, which is Vegas.
Who are these guys laughing at? Like, what got them laughing so much? Those are some great pictures of us.
I liked it. I was thinking about it because we took like the proper ones.
Yeah,
right?
sure
I found
did.
I have a pose. I finally figured it out
Show
after
us.
taking a lot of like selfies.
Mm-hmm.
I figured out that I look best if my body's one direction, my face is like at an angle.
Wow.
But I'd have to like turn like.
Oh, wow.
It looks better.
That's good.
It looks way better than when you look at me head on like this. This is a whole different conversation, man. This is a thing, though. Again, everybody, we're playing in 2 groups of 4. The 4th place team on each group gets eliminated, so 3 teams will move on to a 6-team double-elim bracket for the Vegas tournament. But more importantly, right now, what are they doing and how are they playing? Well, up front, you've got 2 gods that are banned this weekend. It's going to be Nuwa and Thor that are banned because of game-breaking bugs. And more importantly, because of the release schedule of patches, which if you've been keeping up with that, there was one, I think, Tuesday that dropped, and then another really big one that came out yesterday with the CC buffering and things like that, although I can't remember if that was scheduled for a specific amount of time or if it's still going on. Either way, because all of those changes are happening, we're playing on CA7, and it's just to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field. They've had the same amount of time to practice on it. They know this meta a little bit better, right? You're not, figuring out who can adapt to the newest thing that came out 2 days ago. You're playing on who is the best on CA7, which I believe had just released, during playoffs. So
Right.
It is the same thing that playoffs was played on. They've had some more time to try and figure it out and make sure that everybody is, again, coming in on a level playing field with the same access to it, same kind of practice behind it.
And just for the record, I'm pretty sure the CC buffering was available from 2 to 9 yesterday,
Yeah, it
and
was
you
like
could
a very
also
limited
submit.
time.
You could also submit your feedback. So if you did play it and you loved it or you hated it, make sure you put that feedback in. It helps develop the game.
Yes, like literally, please actually tell us because that makes a huge difference
Yep.
in where things are going. But for here, we don't got to worry about that. That's like Vegas talk, right?
Yeah.
That's like in a month
Forget
from
about
now,
it.
assuming that some of that stuff sticks, right? So that's a lot of stuff for us to figure out eventually. What we have to figure out right now, again, is who's going and who's not. Trelly, we've split this, I've said it a couple of times, into 2 groups of 4.
Right.
The first seed, this is actually really important, and playoffs, the first seed from each group from EMEA and NA got to be the heads of their own group, and then they drafted the other team's groups, which is where these came up. Look at Group B. I personally think that this one was a doozy. Smoke Break, Team Risk, Food Drive for Globes. So a lot of powerhouses. Los Lille as well in this one. Kind of the wild card, a team that we saw yesterday was keeping up in kills, not so much in farm. Really curious to see what they're going to look like today. Later on, they're going to be playing against Team Risk. That is a doozy of a matchup. But with both of them being 0-1,
Yeah.
gives it a little bit of a spicy matchup. That being said, also means that if you lose that one, you're really, really hoping somebody else gives you some upsets to maybe flip the standings around.
All right, I mean, that very well could be the matchup that decides who isn't qualifying, right? Both at 0-1. 2 losses could just be the guarantee, depending on how the rest of the round robin shakes out. So that's going to be one that everyone has to keep their eyes on. And, man, it's kind of crazy that Team Risk gets 2-0'd on the first day of our knockout LAN.
The first 2 games they've lost in the Founder Series, too, where it's like out of nowhere. Unfortunate for them, but they get a chance to redeem themselves later, and of course they'll play again tomorrow against Food Drive for Globe. But that's Group B, and as you can see, those are 3 and 5 p.m. tentative start times, both today and tomorrow. Also Friday the 13th. Just double checking on that one. That is a truth and a fact.
True.
We are in Group A right now. That's where we're going to be. It starts off today and tomorrow, 11 and 1 p.m. Tentative start times depends on the sets. Well, actually, the 11 a.m., as you can see, is right now. That's how it's going. A couple of teams finding some wins, maybe not as big of a surprise. Team name, but with 5 M's, the number 1 seed from North America find themselves a 2-0. Although Game 1 was a lot closer than you would think. Game 2, maybe not so much. And then Borscht with their 2-0 over Malvinas. Gives us a very similar spot in the standings. Charlie, it turns out that when you have 2 sets, 4 teams, and they each play 1 set, 2 teams go up 1-0, 2 teams go to 0-1. The difference is, and I remember looking at this yesterday, because of the matchups, you have a little bit more, right? Team Risk versus Los Leal happening in Group B means that you have the opportunity for some 1-1s to occur, same thing. And while that can happen here, I feel like some of these matchups, and looking at Team Name but with 5Ms, you have this much bigger potential for 2 teams, and I guess capabilities is what I should say. 2 teams could go 2-0 today if they are in Group A. If Team Name but with 5Ms win and Borscht win, they could go up 2-0. They could also end up 1-1, and then I believe if that ends up happening, everybody's 1-1, and this group gets all topsy-turvy.
And that's the thing, Gore. That's why this plus minus is so important. But everyone's been getting 2-0'd or 0-2'd, right? We haven't had the 3-game sets yet. If you do get that one game and then you lose, it could change everything, right? The plus minus is so important. So not only do I hope that these teams that took some losses yesterday, went back to the drawing board tonight, just like kind of grouped up about their comps and such, but how they want to play the early game is so important. How many times did we see, some 5v5s at the start of the game, some invades, some lane swaps, some proxies, and then even some cringe ganks early on because teams have studied so much they know exactly where you're going to be. The early game can decide everything, and all you have to do is get that one win to make your plus minus change. That could be the deciding factor on whether or not we see you in Vegas.
And realistically, the fact that today, I mean, if you go 2-0, you're pretty much set, right? Like you've beat 2 other teams. That's kind of what you need. You've got the head-to-head even if you tie. So like there's a lot of stuff that goes in your favor there.
Yep.
There's still definitely room for a lot of that to change. And I guess depends if you're an admin, I would call them headaches, right, to occur. If you're us, just extra smite that can shape up. But what we're looking at now is Malvinas going up against 5Ms, right? And so this is going to be, I think, a very, very, very interesting matchup. Mainly because yesterday, and we've seen 5Ms. We know they dominate. They ran North America. Prior to running North America in the playoffs, they were still running North America. Like they've been a really dominant force through Swiss, through playoffs, et cetera, et cetera.
They ran North America sans Cowabunga.
Sans Cowabunga.
And then Cowabunga got dropped out, which is still crazy, by the way, just to, considering that even happened. But yes, Team Name with 5Ms is still that.
They were the number 2 team till they were the number 1.
Exactly. Now they're the powerhouse that everyone's got their eyes on. Team Risk was the powerhouse that everyone had their eyes on until
they were the number 1 team.
Yesterday. When now anything could happen. So I'm not ready to lock in just absolute domination for any squad, but if there was a team that was, looking unbeatable at the moment, it's Team Name with 5Ms.
And that's where Malvinas, their whole everything is going to be complicated here, right? So talking about this team, they were kind of number 2. They played, second fiddle to Los Leal in LATAM. I think the 1 week they found the most success. For those of you who watched a while ago, they were playing under the name Malibu. Now if they've got their sponsor, Trelly, just unfortunately, we're always second fiddle, except for the 1 week that Los Leal didn't play in LATAM, where Los Leal also then won Brazil, because that's the tournament they played in. So you've kind of got this chip on your shoulder, but this has been a team that week in and week out, we're constantly improving. They have Los Leal scrum partners. They have always been improving week to week to week to week to week.
Yep.
And so it's been really fun to watch, and that, to me, makes me curious what they're going to look like today, because that's the kind of thing. So what did you learn yesterday after a 2-0 loss that you're going to bring into it and change up for today?
Well, here's the thing. I do want to make sure that I take the positives from what we watched yesterday, because I was really, really hyped to watch Fachicho. I think that LATAM prioritizes this Zeus pick so much, and it has mixed success. There were times where he just flexed his mechanical prowess, got the instant 3-stun, and it was cooking, and I was like, okay, now we've got something going here, right? Like now I get to see this in action. But then there was other times where the duo lane just got hung out to dry. Smitero and Belway weren't really able to make those rotations. So if they made some adaptations tonight, after watching the game back, I'm sure they did some VOD review. Everything that we've heard from Malm and Dilo about these guys is they are grinders. They are down to make the small, minute changes that can push their gameplay over the edge. Hopefully we see a little bit more presence towards the duo lane, because NA, if nothing else, they love winning out in the duo lane, getting those early gold furies, and that is very hard to come back from when it starts snowballing early on.
I do think it's worth mentioning also as an asterisk, which is that some of their players, they had to change things up, right? Like, they don't have, I believe, their main jungler, so they definitely swapped some things up as they came here, but the fact that they still looked pretty decent yesterday gives me some hope and has some curiosity sparked again for this first set. But you don't have to take it from me. Instead, we can jump in. We've got an interview with Belway standing by.
Hi, my name's Dolson. I'm here with Belway, solo laner in the team booth. Belway, start with me a little bit. Look back to yesterday, obviously hoping for a win, come up a bit short. What does the go-home, prep, regroup look like for you guys? How do you look back on the match yesterday and prepare for a game today?
Yeah, yesterday we did our homework. We rewatched the games. Try to fix about mistakes, some mistakes about the draft maybe. When it comes to the jungle, also some positionings, you know, like in the duo. Yeah, we did our stuff. We knew it was the first time we faced a top team like them. Yep, we are prepared for now.
Good. And speaking of top teams, you got a really strong opponent across the aisle today. When you look at the roster that they've built and knowing how they like to play the game, what are you prepared for? How do you play against a team? Any particular players that you're identifying that you maybe want to slow down?
Yeah, most of us already play against them when they was in the United squad. So yeah, we know they are probably one of the top teams right now. So yeah, we did research on them. Yeah, we're gonna play our style, draft as good as we can. Yeah.
Well, 4 teams in the group, 3 teams making it out. As the weekend goes on, do you feel the pressure starts to build up? Each game that you play, it's a little bit more important than the last.
Yeah, we knew yesterday was like testing the waters. Like again, we only scrim against Los Lille, so it's really good to show yesterday and see what the teams have in mind. For tomorrow, we expect like our last bullet, you know.
Sure.
Not saying that we're gonna lose today, but we know that we are facing top team right now.
Well, and kind of final thoughts here. As the Latin American representatives, tons of support for you guys. That's something this team can sense, the support behind this squad.
Yeah, we saw in the stream when we were watching the replay. So thanks for all the support.
Good. Well, a lot of people excited to watch you play. Best of luck. Gormizer, take it away.
So something that I pick up in there, first off, the support is real. I saw chat.
Absolutely.
Y'all are awesome with it. The other part of that, though, and is worth mentioning again, is a lot of these players, you know, if you are watching this and you've been watching Smite for a while and you're scratching your head, you're like, wait a minute, like, I think I know that guy's name. You probably do, because they did play long time ago. If you remember the Global Series when that was going on, we were still working Monday to Fridays. I don't even think you were here yet.
Sure wasn't.
It was a very interesting time, but very important. And the thing to note, a lot of those guys played on Nocturnes Gaming. I think 3 of them, 4 of them were on that squad. So when you hear in the interview, yeah, we played against a few of these guys when they were E-United, like, legitimately, they played against these guys before. And so that gives me a little bit of I guess maybe a little more hope, right, for this one after yesterday. If you're looking at it, you're like, man, this is going to be a really tough matchup. But it's like, you've played them before. You've now got your taste of what's going on right now, Smite 2 LAN.
Right.
So maybe now you've made those adjustments. You've got your support. You're kind of feeling good about it and recognizing that, you know what, this is going to be hard, but that's all the more reason to try and win. And if you're wondering why we keep saying 5Ms is a difficult team to take down, not only are they the #1 seed from North America coming into this event, just look at the roster and you'll see a little bit of why. Cherry, Scream, Benny Q, PBM, Cyclone Spin. Again, if you've been watching Smite for a while, if you're scratching your head thinking, man, I think I recognize some of those names, yeah, you probably do. A lot of these guys have either a championship under them or have done wild amounts of success in the past in the Smite 1 Pro League. And so looking at this and the way they play as well, Trelly, I feel like that's the other thing. Yesterday, they didn't have to reveal too much. They pretty much played the same draft. I think Scream was the only one who had to change gods.
Yep.
Because his first god, did he play? Was he the one who played Susano, then Loki, or was one of them?
You are right.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then we had Benny Q just went Poseidon, and of course Cherry went his full tank full damage invisibility Hades. Like that, they have been cooking. And Cyclone Spin went tanky Cernanos.
I saw a meme for the Hades where it was like him and Loki, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm you, but better."
I mean, here's the thing, and I want everyone to make sure they are well aware of this. Cherry is not a one trick of any sort. Like when Alma first came out, he was the guy that coined the Jade Scepter Staff of Mirrodin Alma tech, and he would just go full damage Alma solo, and I would be like, oh, there's an Alma behind me, and then I would just get double bursted by the shield, and I was dead, and he knocked me up to make sure I got hit by the ult, and I'm like, okay, so he figured that out in the first week of Alma being out. I think bro just goes into ranked, plays every single solo lane character, builds every style of build that can possibly work, and then keeps the ones that are real good and real sneaky under his hat and pulls them out in moments like this. So I don't think that he's just going to consistently go to the Hades, but until it's stopped or until it's countered,
why not?
no one's banning Hades, right? Cherry's like, bro, I'm going to go first side on Poly. Everyone's going to be like, what's he doing? Then by the end of the game, I'm going to have this invisibility helm. I'm going to roll up one shot your backline, and half the time I'm going to make it out just fine.
It was actually really interesting. I got to talk to a few of the solo laners, but specifically it was Deathwalker and Cherio who kind of stood out with their answers the most when I asked them, because one of the things they had said was they didn't really care as much about what happened in lane. Like if Cherry goes 0-5, he's like, I don't really care. If I out rotate and I out team fight, that's what matters. And that was something that Deathwalker had echoed. Can't help but notice both of those teams are doing pretty well right now. So it feels like that is that conversation is having the teleporters, being a solo laner, and
exactly.
Literally just leaving the lane sometimes and having that impact for your team is like the big deal. Do you think the Hades? Well, I mean, obviously the Hades is helping with that, but like, is that the true difference maker for a solo laner right now?
I mean, I think that the use of the teleporters is so important. I mean, how many times have we seen even? I mean, I remember watching yesterday with Borscht, like Awesome Jake was teleporting over to solo lane. Like being able to use this mobility, Smite 2, I think is all about grouping up earlier than the other team is expecting, right? There is no teleport relic anymore, right? You have to actually physically go to the tower and use the teleporters to get the lane, or go to the teleporters on the side of the map. You can't just go to a ward immediately, and that just doesn't happen anymore. So these clutch rotations from these solo laners, as soon as they're able to get a lead, they proxy out a lane and then they head over. They make such a big impact, and a lot of these games have been decided by snowball. Like, oh, you drafted for late game, we're not even giving you the chance to get to late game.
You got to be very careful in those situations, as we learned yesterday. But we've been talking a lot about solo, so why not talk to the solo laner here for 5Ms? It's Cherio, standing by for an interview.
Hi, still Dolson. This time here with Cherio. Cherio, yesterday, the first game that you've played back on LAN in, what did we say, 4 or 5 years, something like that. Does it feel like you never left?
I guess a little bit. I was still coaching at the time, but wasn't actually here. It's fun to be back, be here, meet everyone again, yeah.
Well, you got some tough opponents over on the other side of the player booth here from you. In your minds, you've now gotten to see them play a little bit. Do you guys focus more on your own personal game plan in a matchup like this, or you focus on countering out your opponents? How do you approach a matchup like this?
I think with most, there's 80% of the time you just focus on your own game plan. You don't really try to adapt too much. So we're just going to probably do the same thing we did yesterday, not going to change too much.
Well, your personal game plan has been a lot of Hades in solo. Talk to me a little bit about that pick and why maybe nobody else seems to be doing it.
I just really like the character. I feel like you can always make a play. Even if when you're losing, you're winning, you're always like a win condition. So I just like playing that kind of character, yeah.
I'm not a mathematician, but the math sort of breaks out. 2 wins in a group tends to get you through to Vegas. You guys already have 1 under your belt. Is the pressure on or the pressure off, just needing 1 more to get you guys to that next round?
I wouldn't say there's any pressure. We're looking to go first place just so we can chill on Sunday. So we'll see how it goes, but we're not really. I'm not feeling the pressure, I guess.
Great. Well, I'm excited to see this one, Cherio. Appreciate your time. Desk, back to you.
Going and aiming for first place means that not only is it this matchup, but they also have Borscht in their targets next to tomorrow, which means they won't be slacking, I guess is the best way to phrase it. And I also caught out that he said probably just do the same thing. Like, I would not be surprised if you let them. What was it? Sobek, Poseidon, Hades,
CERN,
and then
Loki or
Loki.
Susano.
I think the Loki was the ideal version of it, but just whatever Scream wants to play at the time.
I mean, first of all, Scream plays what he wants regardless. He can't be locked down. But yeah, why wouldn't you? And that's the thing. I like what he said about the Hades, where even if my team's throwing, even if we're behind, even if we're losing by a bunch, Hades can still make that big play. He can still get that pick, which can be so impactful, especially from a solo laner. You're not expecting that from like a tanky chalk pick or something. It's only really Hades that has that level of burst, at least in the current meta. We've seen some Poseidon come into the solo lane. I think the meta is still shifting. We'll see where it ends up. But as of now, they're going to have to find an answer for it because it doesn't seem like Cherio is going to be too worried about it. And it's not as if you're going to pick it either without practice, right? I can't imagine all these teams have been, sneakily getting a Hades pick in their arsenal?
No, I mean, most of them abandoned Hades like 3 months ago.
Yep.
It feels like
Yep.
Cherry just hung on to it and has made it work. You know, even in those moments, we even talked about it, like when Hades got like nerfed, everybody else stopped playing him. It was like, man, there's so many other good gods to play in this lane. And Cherry was still playing it, and admittedly still looking good on it, right? I mean, he hasn't really faltered too often in it, except for, as you had mentioned, in the past, and at this point, it's starting to feel like the distant past, but really it's just more than 3 weeks ago against Cowabunga, who gave them a lot of trouble. So watching for 5Ms in their draft, I think is going to be a big deal. You had already mentioned Zeus for the other side as well. Like, that's been something that's been a very interesting pickup and something that was high damage but punished pretty heavily as well. And so that's kind of where I'm curious is adjustments, right? I mean, that's what LAN is all about. And you even just said it, where there's like, if there is a meta for LAN, nobody's figured it out just yet. It's still kind of settling.
I mean, it's shifting so much. And again, I really do like what Belway said in his interview about how they watched the games back. They understood that dual lane was kind of getting a lot of pressure towards them. So, and he also mentioned the jungle. So maybe we will see a little bit of a rotation there from SMITE, letting Fachicho just sort of solo farm because he was doing just fine on that in the early game. Like, Baskin was power farming yesterday, and Fachicho was being able to stay within a half level for a while. So these are the kind of adjustments that you have to make, that you have to watch out for, because you do not want to just get snowballed on farm-wise, because then your game's just done. And again, I know that Latham both just love this Zeus pickup, but there are other mid laners that have been able to get different picks of value. So I'm curious to see if they'll go to something different as well. Just because, the Morgan has been coming back in the meta. On CA7, she received some pretty solid buffs. Hecate got some pretty solid buffs in CA7. There are other picks to go to here. Just depends on what they've practiced.
I know we saw a couple games of Hecate yesterday where she looked really good, right? And like did the things we expect her to do with her kit. And one thing, first off, I realized that I had missed seeing that big, like, wide, capable team fight ultimate that just changes the pace of things. But if I remember correctly, it was used against Scream, and it gave him, I'm going to say, a little bit of trouble just because he got yoinked under tower like 3 times, I want to say, throughout the set. And so maybe that's a thing to lean on. But like you said, the gods that got buffs, as well as the fact that we've got some new gods. I mean, we've seen the Poseidon, right? We got to talk a lot about him. Wouldn't be surprised if we end up talking about him in, I don't know, a couple minutes as well.
Yep.
But, we haven't seen the Cupid yet.
Yep.
I want to say Kepri is in that mix where it's just like, he's a guy that exists, and as far as I know, nobody's touched on.
Yeah, off the top of my head, we've seen a bunch of Sobek, Ymir, and Yamoja.
Yep.
We've seen CERN and Jingwei almost exclusively, except Tegvir played one Zeus ADC game.
And I don't know if that's going to be like a staple yet.
Who knows at this point?
For Tegvir, it might be.
Yeah, we've seen a good bit of Zeus mid, and then, of course, Loki, Susanna. The junglers have been diverse.
Yeah.
But besides that, there's going to be, whoever can get CERN, who's just going to pick up Jingwei on the side. The bans are going to be, who do you try and focus out? Is it support? Is it jungle? It all depends on who you're trying to slow down, and Scream has shown that he is so versatile that even taking away things like the Loki, I can't imagine are going to slow him down that much.
Yeah. I'm curious, though, because like you said, outside of Cherry's Hades, which maybe I guess we can answer that question in a second, picks and bans for game number 1 ready and up. Malvinas will be the first pick team. Again, 1 ban per if you're just tuning in for the first time here in SMITE 2. The roster's just not big enough to have 2 bans quite yet. And it will be the Sobek that gets banned. Some have gone on and said that for CA7, he might be the best god in the game. And Malvinas won't even have the opportunity to try and rethink whether or not they want the Zeus. It gets chosen for them. Team name, but with 5Ms ban that, and it's a Yamoja first pick.
Well, we do have to see if Fachicho's got something else in the pocket for mid, which means Poseidon could be that option. I was going to say could be played in the jungle, could be played in the solo, but with Loki, I'm going to assume that's mid-jungle.
Yeah, Benny,
I've swapped my brain around. Yeah, Benny has been going to Poseidon consistently, and of course Scream the same way. So we'll have to see if Fachicho is going to go to something else. But the Yamoja is always a good start, man. We talked about duo pressure. I've seen a few Yamojis get off to rough starts, but more often than not, you're able to just power farm because you have better wave clear early on. You get to use your bubble multiple times as opposed to everyone else who has 1 cooldown. So that's a good start, and they've taken the CERN over the Jingwei. So they've shown their hand. If they get the opportunity, they just prefer
whoa,
that CERN. And you mentioned it, haven't seen the Cupid yet. We get to see it here.
I'm I'm going to be honest, I'm a little gobsmacked. I did not think we were going to get the cube. I was going to even ask you because of the fact that every other role we've talked about, we've had like 2 or 3 gods. And so I was going to mention, hey, what if you just ban Jingwei or Kern? Then maybe that would be the solution. But no, you don't have to. If you're going to add a 3rd god to the mix, you put the Cupid in. I'm really interested to see Cyclone play this.
Foot on my doorway,
because this is a god that
I'll
Cyclone,
destroy it.
if you look at
It's
Smite
quite
1,
simple, really.
had played for a long time. Also the Nemesis, who has been just absolute powerhouse, I think, yesterday. Played incredibly well. Made sure that I did not forget that she was in the game or anything like that for any point forward. Also, I want to mention this, Chelly, just because it was absolutely crazy to me, but we just had more confetti fall down. That's just been like the running bit for me.
Oh my
For like 3 years, I've had that going, and I'm keeping it going because there was just like 4 pieces that came down. Whether that's a good sign for Malvinas or a bad sign for Malvinas, that's going to be, I think, determined in the future. But Ymir, Hades are what round out team name, but with 5 M's.
That is insane.
You can, if you look up, guy, you can't. We don't have a camera shot for it, but I can. There's still tons up there from World. Was that season?
World's 8.
8?
Yeah, World's 8. We shot
It's
confetti,
just all
and it's just been up in the rafters. And every once in a while, it'll come down. We just saw a little bit more. Maybe
It's like 6 pieces on the ground.
I'm gonna take it as a good sign. I think that
That means we're in for good Smite.
Yeah, I mean that much we could tell. And again, I think Valo made this Nemesis pick look real good yesterday, and we were all kind of sleeping on it. So the fact that maybe either Malvinas took up on that, and they were like, wait, Nemesis might be really strong. But more specifically, I think what everyone took from it was that it's a great matchup into Loki. Right?
Yes.
Loki can't break the shield, so he tries to get poked, he tries to do the flurry strikes, and just gets shielded. And then Nem says, I've out-traded you, I poke you out, and I'm going to farm better than you. So maybe that's the call here. Could be the case, just try and focus out Scream. Love to see the Hecate. That's a pick that we talked about that could be coming through, especially with Zeus banned. It gets decent value onto picks like Poseidon and Cupid, but it's going to be more about positioning here.
The thing I'm really excited for is we've got Chalk, and he's going to solo. We don't have the Chalk jungle. I'm excited to see him over there. We'll see how well it works out. It's game number 1. We're going down to your cast.
That's right. It's Dolson, and it's inbound for game number 1 between Malvinas, and I'm just going to call them 5 M's, Bobby. I want to be in agreement here that 5 M's is going to be just easier than team name, but with 5 M's, because we do have to say Scream
with 5
M's, right? We got to make that clear. Both teams, though, meeting in the jungle here. Malvinas talked about loss yesterday, maybe one final chance tomorrow. I think Belway approaching this matchup with, any given Sunday. It's a Friday. But we might be able to beat this team, but we're going to have to make some big changes from our matchup yesterday.
Yeah, and I think Malvinas showed enough yesterday that they have this team fighting potential. They team fight and they fight well. The issue comes from they just farm a little bit worse. I think they get so caught up in trying to fight evenly that their farm just kind of goes to the wayside. They try to look for too many plays, and it's a big issue that these really good teams that have been around for a long time, they farm very efficiently. But this Malvinas comp, I think they've drafted one of the best comps they've had this entire weekend. Granted, this is only their 3rd comp, but I like the way they've gone about it. Yep. Ufel has played this Axe, or he's played CERN before, but he didn't build Axe last time. I think this Axe CERN build is his best way to play it. But you know what we got to talk about? We got to talk about this Cupid. This is our first time this weekend seeing
Tell me about it.
And this is I think this is more of a matchup-specific thing for Cupid, where he will struggle into Jingwei. He will struggle into other characters that have, the ability to get away from his ultimate. But CERN really struggles into the Cupid ultimate. And Cyclone, along with that ultimate matchup into Ufel CERN, he goes for this Golden Dagger, which is a more farming style starter. It's mostly for junglers. It's the same thing that Smitero has. It is very good for pushing waves, which is like the one thing Cupid kind of struggles with. And he doesn't really need Cowl. He doesn't really need Death Toll. So I like this by Cyclone, and I've been a big lover of Cyclone's builds. Tweeted about it, where I think he was the one that really showed this CERN build and showed the strength of it. So much damage, a lot of survivability. So I'm excited to see what he cooks up with this Cupid.
Yeah, duo lane was one of the areas that this Malvinas team thought they could make some waves moving into today. We have swapped sides over here in the duo lane.
Damage.
Mike a bit low.
Dash.
The dash in from Ufel. Oh no, but Cyclone Spin has turned it around, and Mike snags first blood. You thought Malvinas had all of the pressure in duo, and it looked that way. But it looks like the damage just a bit better from 5M. Smitero now over in duo. Mike left alone. One more auto. Someone hit it.
Level
the
up.
Healing, the level. It's enough. And it looks like Mike is going to live. It's chaos right off the bat in the duo. And it's 5Ms who come out with the lone kill.
And that is the buff to Ymir. Ymir's passive was 10% reduced damage that the enemy gets, and actually a dash by Cyclone Spin.
Cyclone Spin dashes in, and
he
that
got
may be
stunned.
his death. Oh, Mike turns around the kill, and it's a 1-for-1 trade on the reinitiation. Playing by the thinnest of margins, but a 1-for-1 on the second fight.
And I actually like that play there by Smitero. He sticks around. Maybe we actually have to take a pause on that. Benny's just going to run down Fachicho. He's dead here.
There is some help from duo lane. If Fachicho can buy just a little bit of time. No E2 here as well. So Benny Q running for the hills as Yamoja steps forward and drops the stun.
And that's good awareness, getting Fachicho out of there. And Benny on this Poseidon farms very efficiently. He also will look for these early plays. We saw him even wrapping around through the jungle as soon as he hits level 5, trying to find that ultimate, that 1v1 onto really anyone he can. And if you're looking at Malvinas' side, I mean, this Nemesis is going to have to be very, very careful. No beads, no Aegis into the Poseidon. A cripple from the 3 should guarantee that Kraken. And it's kind of the same thing with Fachicho, where he has that Aegis, but you can combo a lot of your damage off of Poseidon CC. So this is a good Poseidon pick. Benny has shown he likes it, and he's always very comfortable on it.
Scream, first big gank of the game. Belway in some serious trouble here. I don't know when that axe is coming back up. Not in time is the answer. Pretty simple for 5Ms. Quick early gank. It's something the Des talked about. Early pressure from Scream and the rest of 5Ms, and it has now found its home over in solo.
And Scream's shown that he's like playing towards solo side of the map. This is like his 4th gank, where he ganks Cherry as Cherry's leveling up to 5 and the enemy solo lane are still only 4. And it's when these buffs are spawning, Smitero and Scream looking for the fight on this red buff. No real fight happening here. You're just trying to secure this buff and get out. Scream does get it, levels up to 5. And it's becoming a little bit of a problem right now for Malvinas. They're losing the solo side of the map. They're losing the duo side of the map. Yep. They're not getting their buffs. That's the big issue. These deaths, they really don't mean that much. You also got that kill onto Cyclone, so you slowed him down a little bit. But losing buffs and dying in lane, that's when it becomes a disaster.
A couple thousand gold in the lead are 5Ms. Talked to Cherio in the pregame about this Hades. Now the solo lane may be quiet unless there's a jungler over there on right. Chalk, though, raised some eyebrows, Bobby, as we went into this game. Is it a matchup that makes some sense in your mind, or is this more focused around the team fight later on in the game?
Chalk is he's a solid laner. He kind of just lives most of the time, so you feel walking up here, does use that beads, gets out. Cyclone trades that ultimate for the beads. And Chalk is a character who, currently in Smite 1, if you ever played Smite 1, you don't think of Chalk as this late game character. You think of him, you think of him as this laning phase, solid character. He doesn't really die, doesn't really ever have threat. That's changed in Smite 2. In Smite 2, Chalk is a fine laner. He's okay, but he's really, really good in the late game. The farther into the game you get, the more items you get online, the more cooldown that Chalk has. He's just going to be spamming his 1, 2, 3, very low cooldowns across the board. And with that, it's effective damage. It's threatening damage. Fachicho gets the ultimate force out. Beads, Aegis traded, both of them just looking to get out a little bit of pressure on the map. Purple buff is spawning on that right mids. That's the stereotypical mid lane trade where you're just trying to get a small advantage.
Wow, Scream still has ultimate here, and it'll find its home. Stun and damage is good enough. That is clean and simple. For Scream, hangs around. Cherio gonna peel away a bit of that extra jungle, knowing his teammates are over here on right. Smitero in the middle of 3, but most ultimates on cooldown. It's just been an outpacing, Bobby, it really seems here, from Scream and in the jungle. 5Ms have really benefited.
Yeah, and this is we are getting the kills, and we are getting even more than just those kills. Gold Fury is getting pulled also. Cherry's proxy the other side of the map. The only one really here is Smitero, but he's not even going to be able to get there in time. Gold Fury dead. Camps are getting invaded. Cherry's proxying with no real threat on him. Yep. This is the type of game that 5Ms can really play, and they'll really push their lead. They'll get this very small lead. I mean, looking at the gold now, it's exorbitant at 6 minutes.
It is, and 5Ms still have some items that are going to stack up. It's going this poorly with a Transcendence and a book that you're stacking up in jungle and mid. It's just going to get worse here in a little bit of time. So what's the avenue back in here? I mean, is Nemesis going to suddenly hit this spike, Bobby, where you're saying, okay, now Smitero can plant that flag? Or are we already 6.5 minutes in? Are we already looking towards late game, hoping we can just survive for the next 10, 15 minutes.
I mean, you're very close to getting to that point. You're losing your blue buff, you're losing your red buffs. Benny's solo invading reds.
What do you hope to see?
I just want to see just ganks, just forcing some fights. You have to fight your way back into this game. This is not a game where you farm out. You're just going to lose everything. I want to see SMITE just look for some plays somewhere, try to get something. It's hard. It's not easy when you're playing Nemesis when you're behind because you have no hard CC. And that's kind of the one thing that Malvinas is lacking is they have no hard CC on the Chalk. They have no hard CC on this Nemesis. I mean, even the Yamoja CERN lane isn't a ton of lockdown, quick, hard CC, but that's really the only lane you can play through.
Yeah, I'm wondering where SMITE is going to go. Benny Q, 2 levels ahead of Fachicho in mid. Was 2 levels a moment ago for Cherry, but now about a level and a half for this Hades, and Scream also 2 levels ahead. So difficult position for that jungler to be in. Cyclone Spin. PBM, they've been just fine over in duo lane as well. Mike picking up a couple of those early kills. SMITE, though, over here on right. This is what you're hoping for. At least force some utility out of Cherio, get something off of the map. Maybe makes an impact here in a couple of minutes. So the true value not yet known, but at least something on the map for Malvinas.
And now I want SMITE to go back over to that lane and look for another one. Or if it's not Malvinas, maybe Yufel and Noitu Lover can actually use that teleporter to look for something onto Cherry. You get that beads out, you get that blink out, the ult out, whatever it is, that is then the punish after. That's what you want to deal with. So now that Cherry doesn't have that survivability in that ultimate, the blink, gank him again. Don't just do this one gank and then hope Belway gets the solo. He's down a level and a half. It's not going to be a solo. You need that gank. So that's what I want to see Belway do at this, or sorry, SMITE do.
Interesting, a gank onto Benny Q. Most of the damage from the Kraken dodged, but Benny is just so far ahead over in mid. Fachicho lucky to get out alive. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it was 19 when we looked at it, but that HP had to be just a tick lower. 1 or 2 ticks of that HP 5 rolling through. Benny Q nearly turning around a 2v1. Soul Gem and a Book of Thoth. Bobby, tough to gank into, especially when your mid laner's a couple levels down.
Yeah, and that's a good trade by Malvinas there. They force out Scream's blink, actually, so that's a win there.
Catch that.
A win in solo lane. The issue there is that's just a difficult fight because, as you said, 2 level difference. I mean, 3 levels now. It's not an easy win to have if SMITE looks in solo lane where, you know, Cherry is weak. He doesn't have the blink, the ult. Cherry's just going to make plays over in left lane now.
Yeah, Cherio, first to make use of the teleporters. Noitu, close to death. Able to escape narrowly from this one, though. Mike, now around the backside. You can just wait out this River's Rebuke. There is an answer from Malvinas coming over from mid. As SMITE makes their way through the jungle, but still going to be a 3 versus 2 as Noitu had to go back to base. Dash out of Yufel, but does it really matter? Sure doesn't. Cherio's still here. And another kill for 5M. SMITE actually dropped that ultimate right on the back end. Didn't quite matter. That is a patient game there from 5Ms and snag another kill. Second of the game onto the CERN.
I mean, at this point, Mike is really far forward here. This is a 3v3 breaking out, but he's so tanky at this point.
Can you get it? Can you get the kill onto Mike? You need to see 1.
Got him.
Yes, finally. From Malvinas, get something going. But Cyclone Spin tears through Malvinas and the rest of that team fight. 2 levels ahead, and guess what? A Fury is back. Methodical from 5Ms, and Mike will take that trade every day of the week.
And Cyclone getting that kill, Cyclone getting this Gold Fury farm now also. Getting even farther into his build, that Braggy's Harp. Every level you get, you're going to get more damage in your auto attacks. And he does this same style build on CERN, he just does a slightly different ordering. He usually goes for that Sunbeam Bow first. This game he's going for the Braggies first into Sunbeam Bow second. And it's just he just doesn't have the mana to keep that Sunbeam Bow up as much. So he just opts for the Braggies, a little bit more intelligence, a little bit more attack speed. This is almost that CERN build, just slightly different order. And I think it's a really good build on Cupid also. I just think you have to opt into a little bit more damage later on into the build. I think CERN has that value of being just one of the more high damage auto attackers because of that melee. Extra damage when you're autoing somebody in melee. With Cupid, you don't really have that same high damage. You're more utility outside of that. So I want to see maybe 1 survivability item instead of the 2 on the CERN. But Mike's just running him down.
Oh, double freeze, double Kraken, maybe double kill for Chicho. Red like a book, and Mike is there on the answer. SMITE still lives. Benny Q has let it all go early in this fight. Can Mike get another? The wall will not block Smitero, but Benny Q is mighty quick, and so is Scream on the Loki. Cherio's at a solo, and the rest is simple. Benny Q gets a bit of payoff for his nice follow-up on Mike's setup. And Bobby, unfortunately, we're approaching that point now where you're going to need a throw from 5Ms to bring this one back, because they are simply rolling over Malvinas early here, mid-game. All of it's working out. Belway trades out one, but the rest of the dive is in. And how many times have we seen that? Just a group, a dive, specifically over here on Duo. And it's paid off to the tune of a 10,000 gold lead at 12 minutes.
Yeah, and part of it has to go back to that early 2v2 fight over in solo lane where UFEL looks for that dash in, almost gets the kill, but Mike sticks around, gets the kill. Cyclone's doing enough damage returning there, and they get the kill. Smitero then tries to come and make that gank. But it's every lane. It's not just dual lane.
No, it's everywhere.
The one that's losing. Beltway has just been getting dominated by Cherry since that early gank by Scream, and Smitero's not been able to look for too many ganks because most of the lanes are not doing too much, and he's also just pretty far behind at this point. This is, I mean, you're 100% right. This is the point where 5Ms has to make a mistake. That's the only way Malvinas is getting back into this game. The gold lead is too big. The XP lead is too big. I mean, level 16. Benny's level 16 at 13
5 levels
minutes.
ahead of his lane opponent. Smitero still trying to get active, but really you're just getting baited through. We've seen how this one ends. Cherry picks up one on the other side of the ultimate. Guess what? Fire Giant not even here yet. You need a couple minutes for it to spawn out. So you're going to take down the towers in the meantime. Man, this has just been an outpacing, and inbound, this is what we thought could happen. The Des talked a little bit about it. Even Beltway, when I talked to him in the pregame interview, was like, yeah, look, we know this is one of the top teams here at this event. A lot of it is going to come down to pacing. Can we slow them down? Can we survive over in the dual lane? Man, Scream has just made a lot of big plays happen, and maybe you have an opportunity around an FG. I mean, it is still somewhat early in the game. Maybe you make a play happen, but opportunities in game one seem to be slipping away.
Yeah, and Benny's looking over here, walking over, just getting this.
Oh,
that's a lot of damage.
All right, all right. Oh, no. Who gets it? No one. UFEL dashes away. That would have been huge. A 4-0 shutdown would have been big. You know, props to UFEL for standing and delivering some autos, but Benny Q nearly had enough damage there as well. So that's close. Thin margins would have been huge to getting UFEL some gold back in. Those are the types of moments we talk about. You know, a slight slip up, give some gold back. Maybe you find some openings, but it doesn't happen this time around. All right, so the next Gold Fury about to spawn up. Maybe less of a prize for Malvinas, but got to shift your eyes 30 seconds after that. 30 seconds from now, that Gold Fury's, or the Fire Giant rather, is going to spawn out. That's where we'll see how confident this Order side team is feeling.
I'm a little worried at this point with Malvinas. Yes, I mean, the gold lead is worrisome, but the build, they're itemizing very tanky. I mean, you see Smitero's got two mostly defensive items. You have a defensive item on Pachicho in mid with this Talisman of Purifications. Do you have the damage even to take a fight and to actually win the fight? They're looking for Benny in mid 4 here.
We have looked at Benny time and time again, yet to grab a kill. We will this time. It's Smitero on the shutdown, just what the doctor ordered. And it's when these big objectives spawn up. So now it's at least delayed a bit for 5Ms. Might still be able to get it. But you don't have Scream here anyway. It's a split push out from this Loki. Send some minions towards the Phoenix. So, silver lining, the slightest of upticks in our graphs down there at the bottom. Maybe delaying the inevitable. This, though, is what feels real bad. You make a great play happen. You get an odd-numbered advantage on the map. Immediately hand it back over. And those death timers, that's going to give 5Ms a team advantage here in about 15 seconds. For 15 seconds on the map. And inbound, I'm not sure it matters. It'll be a Fire Giant pull, seemingly traded out for a Fury on the other side.
The pick onto Benny is awesome. The issue is you get that pick and you're down so much that you really feel like you can't make a play again after.
Can't do anything.
They're holding the Fire Giant, making sure Benny also does get it. Good, smart play. Doesn't really matter when you're up 15K. I think it's just good things to make sure you're doing the correct thing, and that's the correct play by Malvinas right there, knowing Fire Giant goes down on the right side, getting this on the left side to at least slow the game down a little bit, but I mean, Cyclone's already got the waves prepped here. He's already looking for this Phoenix.
Cyclone spin needs a bit of sustain. Amanita Charm still 30 seconds away from PBM. Of course, you got Fire Giant and some sustain in that kit. Don't get me wrong, Cyclone's fine, but If a fight immediately breaks out, could be a bit lower. How's this defense looking in your mind, Malvinas, inbound underneath these Phoenixes? Because that's where this battle is about to be fought.
I like their defense. The issue is Yamoja's their playmaker in a defense like this, and they have the shell on Cyclone Spin. So, yes, you have big Yamoja ult, you have the threes for the knockbacks, and you have a lot of big area damage. You have the Cern ult, you have Fachicho's Hecate ult. There is some playmaking to be had, but I mean, and also no talisman on Mike. He opts for this Amanita Charm, a little bit of anti-heal, and the SAR's Wings, that little Winged Blade active item. Yep. So there is a play to be made here. No beads on Benny still also. I think it's just, we got to try to find Benny, but we can't dive too deep and, you know, take too much damage, because if extended fights at this point, you don't have that damage that can match, and you don't have the damage to really kill a tank. So I think it's really just got to be either Benny or Cyclone. No beads on Cyclone, period. No talisman, and Benny's beads are up soon. So you got to look at one of those two.
2.5 minutes left on that Fire Giant buff. Could be the last line of defense here for Malvinas. Seems like all game long, Benny Q has been 5, 6 levels ahead. 6 levels ahead of 3 members on Malvinas now. He's the first to reach level 20 into 18 minutes. Can you get damage on to Benny Q? I'm not sure it's going to happen. You fell, though, with the opening kill. It's a shutdown, but Cyclone's been strong enough on the other side as well. Poseidon still full HP. Mike is low. Smitero dashes through. Mid lane Phoenix gone, but a 1-for-1 trade. Man, that is about as good as Malvinas could have hoped for.
Yeah, that's a really good start, because again, this just slows the game down. 5Ms do not have the waves prepped. They took a little bit too much poke. The slight issue, though, is that their entire camp system is up. Reds are up, blues are up, back camps are up, speeds are up, and every one of that farm is going towards 5Ms. Along with that, they're also going to be getting this bomb from the Pyromancer. So, yeah, you get this big win. You slow the game down a little bit. There's still so much farm on the map that 5Ms is able to get, and they're 4 items deep. They're still going to be buying in to entire item systems that are just going to be improving their strength, making them even stronger. I mean, Dave, we're only 18 minutes, 50 seconds into this game, almost 19 minutes. There is still a lot more farm and a lot more of a lead that the 5Ms can generate.
Yeah, they can build up. Is level 20 for Benny Q at... It was pre-18 minutes. It was like 17:45 he hit that. Is that one of the fastest level 20s you've seen?
It's got to be.
I'm trying to think of many normally we're like, can they get 20 before 20? I mean, Benny got it 2.5 minutes ago, and we're still not at the 20-minute mark. We might get there for Scream as well. It's an uphill battle.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the level 20 at 20. His entire team is not even 20 at 19.5. So Benny's just farming super efficiently, but that's part of the reason you pick Poseidon. Poseidon is a power farmer. He plays not necessarily super safe, but he farms very efficiently, he farms super safe, and now with that five items finished, this Poseidon is going to be one-shotting, and he didn't even get pressured last
fight. I don't know how you get to him. I mean, you drop the Kraken, you drop a Whirlpool. That's where my eyes go. What is this Kraken going to do? When does Benny Q let it fly? I mean, he is trapped in the River's Rebuke alone. That's about as good of a setup as you can look for. Positioning maybe wasn't perfect. Kraken, Whirlpool, all of it nearly one-shots Yamoja. So that's some damage that's now down at the beginning of this fight. Cyclone Spin cleans up one, but it's immediately flipped back for Belway. In, out goes Ufel. What can Scream get done here? Into the fountain they go. Oh, the Titan's dealing enough damage. It's a killing spree for the Loki. The Titan's swinging on PBM, and Fachicho is going to pick up the kill. This is far from clean. 2 down for 5Ms in the duo lane. Respawning in 30 seconds. Man, Malvinas, they lose, call it a third of the health on their Titan, but they have not given up this game. Right side, Phoenix also falls. Fire Giant, got to keep your eyes on it. What is Benny Q doing here? I didn't even see him wrap around. Fachicho and Noitu in some trouble. Benny Q sends them back. Scurrying forward is Scream, Riptide back, but Fachicho is going to be left alone. And that's going to reset some of those cooldown timers, the death timers. Malvinas going to be without their mid laner, all on his lonesome for 40 seconds.
And that almost looked a little risky out of Benny there, but you look at it, Fachicho's not doing too much damage right now. Noitu Lover's not doing enough damage right now to really threaten Benny, so he felt safe enough to walk back in and look for that another pick, because, I mean, Fire Giant just dropped off, but now Fire Giant's up, available for 5Ms to go for again, and that will allow them then to maybe end the game off of this next Fire Giant push? Because realistically, that's the Fire Giant that you wanted to end the game with. That first Fire Giant, it was so early that you're just trying to get your lead extended. You're trying to break the base, kill some Phoenixes. Now this next Fire Giant is the one you want to try to end the game with. But, I mean, we can talk about that last fight by 5Ms. Pretty sloppy in my opinion.
Yeah, wasn't clean.
Cyclone went in, doesn't get the shell off, gets blown up, traded 1-for-1. Mike then dives maybe a little bit too deep, dies to the Titan. It's still, we have such a big lead. Is it really mattering at this point?
Game over.
Not at all. Not
Game
at
over.
all.
20,000 ahead. They're okay.
Yeah, they're fine at this point. But, like, if you do it one, maybe two more times, that's when it becomes a little worrisome. So I want to see just slightly cleaner play by 5Ms on this next siege. You have so much survivability on most of your characters. You have a lot of sustain, but I guess the one advantage that Malvinas has is Yemoja, the more levels you get into it, the stronger she gets, and Azam Yap and Yofel is just...
Yeah, the disadvantage. Oh! I think the minion ended up getting the kill, but Cherio did 99.9% of the damage. Well, now the defense, man, it's in a bad spot for Malvinas here. Yofel, 45 seconds till he comes back. Decent wall from Mike. Forces the axe out of Belway. Oh! Double teleport. That brings Scream right to the doorstep of Malvinas. 5Ms. They've written it on the wall from the onset. Can they now finish it up? Oh, Belway, what an initiation! But it doesn't matter. In the back, it's 5Ms on the Titan, and it's game one to 5Ms. Decent defense there. One or two times from Malvinas inbound, but 5Ms had just built up too much of a lead.
Yeah, it's exactly that. The lead was just way too big, way too quick, and it's just efficient farming from these really good teams that really separates them from the LATAMs so far. The LATAMs have shown they team fight really well. I mean, you fell down 4 levels to Benny on the left side, almost picks up that kill.
I didn't fall down 4 levels.
No, you fell.
I did not fall 4 levels
Sorry, you didn't fall. You didn't fall.
You fell 4 levels down. Right.
He was down a few levels, almost got that trade, and that's like the mechanics they have. They have the mechanics. If they can just get their farming up a level, just a level of farming, keep the buffs in mind, and then when they try to make plays, don't let them happen for too long. I mean, they do show a lot of potential, but it's like these differing levels of farming that the best teams do.
When it's hard, you know, we've talked a lot about draft strategy, pick ban strategy. When you've only got the one ban, right? How do you identify that priority target? Where do you want to shut down? I mean, Scream was able to get things going early in the game. Are you considering this Hades to be a big enough problem? Now suddenly Poseidon is looking really good for Benny Q. I think a lot of options for Malvinas to look at. More proactivity, though, from them could make things interesting. Game number 1, that's over to 5Ms. Need one more to go up 2-0 in this group. We'll see what Malvinas has in store for us. Game number 2 coming up next.
And then I said, that's not Bacchus, that's Bilson's mother. That one always makes me laugh. But enough about my weekend. Hey, Gormizer, what's new with you?
Just picked up my Smite 2 Founders Edition.
Very nice.
Purchased it on my preferred gaming platform just yesterday.
Nice skin.
It's Cacodemon Ymir. It comes with all Smite 2 gods. Forever.
That's very cool, Gormizer, but that's nothing. Look at this. Night Stalker Neath and Ascension passes for 11 Alpha Launch gods. What do you think?
Geez, that is really super. How'd a nitwit like you get so tasteful?
Can't believe that Bandy prefers Chelly's Founders Edition to mine.
Very nice. Impressive. Let's see J-Max Founder Edition.
Look at that avatar, badge, and title. The tasteful thickness of Tier 5 Fallen Zeusia. Oh my god, it even comes with Ascension passes for all 23 Alpha gods.
Don't be like this psycho and upgrade your Founders Edition, so you don't miss out on Night Stalker Neath, Tier 5 Fallen Zeus, and Ascension passes for the first 23 gods. Upgrade today.
That's right, you can go to smite2.com now and either get a Founders Edition of one of 3 varieties, or if you've already got one and you just realized that you'd really like to upgrade, well, I've got great news. You can, in fact, do that. The Founders Edition, Deluxe, or Ultimate Edition that you can pick up, all of them are going to come with the full game access, and all of them include all Smite 2 gods forever. And again, that's value, baby. I mean, it is so worthwhile. You want to make sure that you're picking that up, even if it's just the base edition, because that alone, I think, sells this more than anything. If you get the base edition, you also get Cacodemon Ymir and 2x your legacy gems from Smite 1. If you get the deluxe edition, you can add in things like the cross-gen Night Stalker Neath skin, as well as 11 Ascension passes that you're going to pick up. But if you get the Ultimate Founders Edition, you also get the Tier 5 Fallen Zeus skin. You get the Ultimate Edition Avatar badge and title, and you get extra Ascension passes for the first 23 Alpha gods. And again, the Alpha passes, the Ascension passes, Charlie, those are the sneaky worthwhile and sneaky budget things that you're getting. Because the all Smite 2 gods forever, on paper, that already tells you, damn, this is worth it. The Ascension passes give you so much, and I can't remember the number, but if you are getting people grinding them to rank 10, any of these Alpha gods, you're going to be getting diamonds, you're gonna be getting these sick emotes that are for some of these teams. Like, you are going to be able to get a whole lot of content. So make sure that you go to smite2.com today, either pick yours up or upgrade if you so please. For now, the thing that needs to be upgraded is the farm, it feels like, for the LATAM teams as a whole from what we saw yesterday, but definitely for this set. It just feels like, 5Ms, you can talk about the kills, you can talk about fights. It just feels like they had so much. I think even like 5-6 minutes in, they were up 5K.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, your team name with 5Ms was always going to be able to dominate the map farm-wise. They know exactly how they like to play. They've been getting comfort picks throughout. I was curious how we were going to get to see from Cyclone on this Cupid. We've been excited to find out if Cupid was going to be a pretty solid pick, and it looked good. But it's not something you can pick up overnight, man. How you want to play the map, how you can stop a team that just has every sort of avenue covered. You know what I mean? Like, if Cherry's down 0-5, I think Cyclone's able to pick up the slack. If BennyQ's not getting the farm that he needs, Scream can pick up the slack. Like, they are such a well-oiled machine that even if Malvinas had this massive lead, like, there's so much that Team Nemo with 5Ms can do to try and stunt that. And it all starts, as you said, from that farm in the early game. And it's something that it's not as if they don't know, like, okay, when we spawn in here, we're going to have to make sure our farm is on absolute lockdown. It's just so difficult to stop. Like, I still think that Smitero had a pretty decent matchup in the jungle, but the NEM doesn't have that same late-game burst potential. And honestly, just because you can trade well with Loki early on doesn't necessarily mean that Scream has to take that fight, right? Scream could just avoid Smitero in the early, and you still end up 1-5 as the game continues. So I don't have the answers. Not a lot of teams have been able to outfarm a squad like this, so I don't know how you pick it apart from the beginning. But I'm thinking throw away all the late game presence and just go all in on early game, because these games are not going long enough to care about what your comp looks like 30+ minutes.
Mm-hmm. And that's something, I mean, we've even seen that, and I think we had that discussion yesterday. I want to say actually Team Name But with 5Ms was in that discussion where it was like they were in a matchup where they were worrying about, and they had a comp that was like, hey, cool, 25 minutes plus though, nobody beats us. We just got to get there, and they were able to do that.
Right.
So it is, like you said, if you're going to be kind of making a strategy around that, you got to get there first, right?
Yep.
So maybe, much like you said, maybe you all in on pressure early on, maybe you all in something else, but you got to figure it out, and you got to figure it out soon, because taking 2 losses in your group, it ain't a good sign. It's not necessarily the end of the road, because other teams could also take 2 losses, but if I remember the standings over here specifically, you're kind of crossing your fingers that not only does Mockingbird also lose their set if you lose this next game.
Right.
But then also hoping that tomorrow you beat Mockingbird so that you can do there. So there's definitely steps to be taken, definitely things to go, correct if things go wrong. But try to correct it right now. That's what we're going to see as we jump into picks and bans for game number 2. Team Name But with 5Ms will be first pick this time around. I remember Zeus being banned, and I remember Hades, I believe it was.
No, he got to play Hades.
He played Hades. Who was the other one?
Sobek.
Yep. That one. Hades was fresh on my mind because I was literally just looking at his icon on the post-game stats.
No, I got you.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out, I was like, why did I even say that?
The thing about Team Name with 5Ms is they get the picks they want pretty much regardless.
There's the
change-up, though.
play a different god.
There's the change-up, though. Zeus banned, Poseidon banned. I'm Malvinas. So does Team Name take the Sobek first pick? Is that their most value pick? Do they think the Yemoja is better? Or do they just grab Loki for Scream and let Malvinas decide if they went Sobek or Yemoja? I mean, heck, they could take both if that's what they wanted, right? If you want to play solo and support, could be the call as well. And I'm sure Belway wouldn't mind getting his hands on the Croc. So definitely could be high pressure. And again, so much CC, so much damage. There's a reason they're highly contested, and they will go ahead and lock it in.
The solo back was surprisingly powerful, and we even saw it yesterday. I mean, what was it? It was Deathwalker Benko. There's one point, I want to say the numbers I remember were 8-1. Like, I mean, he had a very, very solid performance on that. So you get to lock that in. Like you said, you kind of get both of this big frontline presence. The third in the list that we've been talking about, the Ymir, locked in, maybe to no one's surprise. And so far, Cherry gets to continue playing Hades.
Sure does. And again, I'm not going to complain about it, right? Like, the Hades has been looking real clean.
If it keeps working, yeah, why not?
And there hasn't been an answer for it, so why not just continue to go towards it? Malvinas now, they need to find probably somewhere to go duo-wise. Like, who are you pairing with this Yemoja? You know, Cyclone just had a good Cupid game. Neath is interesting. You could always send that over towards mid as well. Neath took some buffs when it comes to CA7, so it could be the call. And Cupid as well, double carry this time around. Of course, Neath plays much more like a mage with that intelligence-based build, but regardless, 2 auto attackers to go with the double guardian. This takes me back to some of the old Smite 1 days. This is a pretty nasty composition here for Malvinas. They just need a very early game jungler. I'm thinking like Fenrir or something. That's the kind of presence that could, really slow down what Scream wants to do.
Cupid locked in again, this time on the other side, which truly kind of blows my mind. Neath is also in that list, which is wild. We have not gotten to see a Neath for a while. And when we do typically see something like this is a Neath more than likely in the mid lane, which is something at least I've grown to prefer just because short travel time for the ults, right? But it is very physical heavy in terms of damage, execute heavy in terms of Sobek.
Yep, and they also have, the prot shed from the NEM with the double ADC, so they will be able to deal with the tankier targets. Like the Ymir, I was going to say like the Hades, but let's be honest, Cherry's building full damage more often than not. So the tank stats are pretty much just going to be when he's channeling that ultimate. But the Raw as well. Did you get kind of shivers when Benny Q Raw got locked in? It's been a minute since we got to see that as well.
I'm a big fan of the Benny Q Raw. And to the point, I can't remember what LAN it was. Pretty much any of them, if you just go watch it, you can make montages off of it.
Yep.
Sometimes with no setup. He's just hitting the blind snipes over walls, finding kills. Looks fantastic, but it is Malvinas Gaming who need to step up. Will they win this and push us to 3, or will the 2-0 go the way of 5Ms? The only way to find out is to go to Casters.
Oh, no, as if Benny Q's feeling the momentum of Game 1 here inbound. This Raw could be some fun to watch. I always think back to what was it? Was that SPL qualifiers, like going into season 9 maybe? There was a game where a couple games where Benny Q was just on Raw, running around sniping. I mean, it was back in Smite 1 when Raw was like only a Benny Q pick, and so now those two things go hand in hand in my mind.
And there's been a couple times where Raw's never played an SPL, and then Benny will just be like, it's a Raw game, and then he'll have just an electric performance. Yep. And, I mean, it's for big reasons. He'll hit a lot of, like, massive ultimates. Scream's looking for this. I don't know if it's a proxy really right here, or if he's looking just to get, you know, some farm, but it looks like maybe a little collapse here by SMITERO also. Scream has kind of been trying to be a nuisance on this Loki, and he really has been. You never know where he is. You never know where he's starting. And, like, how do you really play against it when teleporters are here? Oh, yeah, Scream's not playing to your side of the map anymore. Good luck finding him.
Yep, bye-bye. Back I go to base. All right. What are some takeaways? Excuse me. Had some French fries. What are some takeaways? I'm back. Look, I just needed one game to knock off the rust a bit, and now, you know, all bets are off. Game 1, what are some takeaways here? Malvinas, we thought maybe outpaced a little bit in the jungle. Scream gets this Loki back. Is that where it starts and finishes in your mind? I mean, already we're seeing a little pressure from Noitu Lover. Maybe something in the early game can shift the other direction. What are your takeaways, and what are you seeing on the map now as a result?
That right there is exactly what I want to see. Let's play around buffs. Let's not just let Scream have the most comfortable game he can. And I almost want the opposite from SMITERO. At least they're like level 3. SMITERO's now had 2 games where he is stuck at level 2 till past 2 minutes. I do not like that. I want SMITERO to hit 3 before he's looking for a gank. Whoa. And Ufel looking for the
Ufel's here. Whoa, out of nowhere. That got him. Blood. Noitu Lover.
But they can kill
in on the invade. And maybe another kill. One more auto hit it. Ufel gets it. Hello, Malvinas. Duo lane starts off with a couple kills. What a start. Ufel goes in. Noitu Lover right there. 1 kill apiece.
And that goes beyond a double kill in duo lane. Ufel also, or sorry, SMITERO, because of the pressure put on by Noitu Lover in duo lane, they also get the mid camps. They also get the buff on the duo side of the map, the contestable one. There is so much farm going the way of Malvinas. And if you flip these names, this is what I would expect 5Ms to be doing against Malvinas, but this is the exact opposite. And now Malvinas feels like they have fight back. And honestly, after a game 1 like that, the game 2 starting this way, where it's not, you know, game over at a minute, but we got a nice little lead. We've got a nice play here and there. We have 2 lanes that are winning now. I love this by them.
If nothing else, it's that the non-concrete vibes, right? They're just sort of going your way after a start like that. Could be even better if you get some jungle help. That's what 5Ms are going to get here. Scream around the corner. Ufel dashes away. Able to get himself healed back up. Ufel without that blink, though. Maybe under a bit more pressure. Scream chooses to hang around. Speaking of blink, it's in for Scream. It's level 3.
Nice stun.
Is there enough damage? Mike in on the wall. Freeze. All of it hits, but Ufel able to dash away in the 3v2. Suddenly Malvinas are able to live, but can they do one better? SMITERO's over here on duo as well. Cyclone Spin weaving in an auto attack or 2 as he's on the back pedal, but Mike not giving up the chase. Neither is Malvinas. Dash in from Ufel. Freeze not there from Mike. It's just gonna stun. No, it doesn't. So for now, it looks like the dance of death over in duo lane without any of the death. Still those early 2 kills from Malvinas. Nothing after that.
And if you watched a lot of the LATAM games from the CA6 patch where they were fighting to come to this LAN, I mean, I've talked to Malum about it a lot because he's a big enjoyer of these teams. This is the style that Malvinas made to get to this point. They liked these early fights. They liked taking it to the enemy team. And so far it feels like, I mean, up until this game, they were kind of just playing back. They were letting the game happen, and they were just hoping that they would get to late game. And it seems like Ufel specifically has said, no, we are done trying to just get to late game. Let's make the late game happen. Heck, maybe we don't even allow the late game to happen because we snowball this game so hard. Yep. And that's what we want to see. I mean, SMITERO's already got this lead now over on Scream. And if you think about 5Ms, at least so far in this tournament, I think a lot of the plays are made around Scream at level 5 in solo lane. Scream's still not 5. They didn't look for the invade on that side of the map. This is 5M's kind of now almost on the back foot of Oh, we kind of got punched in the mouth. We kind of are now unsure of what needs to be done, because this is a really good team.
Ult out from SMITE and from Scream, level 5 ult. This time not for a gank, but defensively for Scream. Unfortunately, and I don't want to be a party pooper here, it's only like a 200 gold lead for Malvinas, so it's not game breaking, not just yet, just a couple of kills early in this lane. But I also think, to your point, Belway will be okay here, but an invade from 5Ms. This is how you can start to build up a lead if it's not going to be through those kills. Looked like they were able to grab it, 5Ms were. And I think this is to your point. Even if you're not mounting up all of these kills, you're piling up the gold and the pressure, denying 5Ms from doing that can almost be just as worthwhile. Cyclone Spin in the River's Rebuke, a wall up from Mike. Mike's wall, a bit short of a cooldown though than the River's Rebuke. But UFEL wasn't even really in range. Would have been maybe a blink, a dash, just to get there to fight. Now that Yamoja ultimate gone, what can Scream get done over here in mid? Chicho takes a chunk of damage. BennyQ doesn't have his ultimate here either. SMITE in and out of the bush. Uh-oh, World Weaver's gonna connect. That'll slow down Scream. UFEL into Mike over in duo. I thought something happened here in mid, but no, it's the duo lane yet again. And it's UFEL yet again on this Cupid. Sending Mike on back, and there's life again from LATAM in duo.
And this is the first time we've seen UFEL on this Cupid, but this is the god that he looks the most comfortable on. He's making plays how he wants. He's looking for that dash in. I mean, he used the blink aggressively.
Nice Riptide.
Cyclone.
What a Riptide Phantom Shell necessary for Cyclone Spin. Whew. And this is that flow state, for lack of a better term, that the Yamoja can get into. Sometimes everything just starts to connect, and it makes life so oppressive on the other side. A battle over the neutral camps. Looks like Mike won the last little bit, but Cyclone Spin has not been able to do Cyclone Spin things. And inbound, if there's one thing I remember of casting days of past, it's that Danzaburo feels great when you got a big lead, you can rock it in. Call them even now, you're even in levels, maybe a little bit behind thanks to a couple of those kills. Doesn't feel terrible, but certainly not as good as you could if you had a nice big lead built up and can force additional pressure.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right.
Oh, thanks.
Your SMITE 1 knowledge is right there,
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Danzaburo from behind is probably one of the worst ADCs you could play. He's got really interruptible abilities, very easy to gank. I mean, looking in the bottom left, his net worth is the lowest in the game, even lower than his support, lower than the enemy jungler. He is struggling here even at his first item.
Yep.
And this is not a character, I mean, as you said, let's highlight that you said that.
Yeah, thank you. This is
Danzaburo
great. I want to cast with you all the time. This is good.
Danzaburo from behind is just not easy to play. And there's a lot of CC, a lot of interruptible. Mike, looking for this invade. Scream?
Whoa, UFEL, what are you doing? You're on your own on the other side of the buff. And that's an easy rocket for Cyclone Spin. But is there additional damage from Malvinas? Cherio, he's low. BennyQ's got a snipe. Mike's got a march down kill. It's all gone sideways in the jungle. A slight lead from Malvinas now evaporates into thin air. And it's 5Ms about 1,000 gold ahead in an awkward fight in the opposite side jungle.
And that's the Cherry rotation that, I mean, he's done really well this entire tournament. And he's just done really well since he made that switch over to solo lane in SMITE 2. He's very smart with making these rotations, and he does it to get his team ahead. I mean, as you see, he is a little bit behind, but now, as you just point out, Mike is now ahead a level, Cyclone is now ahead a level, and that's what you need.
Is that a caster's curse? Is that on us?
That might, us, didn't you say it?
Yeah, right. If you're going to give me credit for the good things, I also have to get credit for the bad things. Right as we're talking about a nice lead over in duo for Malvinas, it's Mike and Cyclone Spin making something happen in the jungle, and that's put Cyclone right back in the conversation.
And we have to highlight, though, Malvinas is building into a strictly stronger late game. Belway's building into this Cloak. Cloak, not the best early game item. It's an item that you need to stack up by hitting the enemy gods. Hitting physicals gives you physical protections. Actually, a backflip on a Chicho Aegis is used.
Oh, and it avoids all the damage. Isn't enough, though. The wall from Mike is perfect. Forces the longest route out for Fachicho. That Aegis looked real nice. Didn't matter. 3v1 over in mid, backflip down. BennyQ, Mike, Scream. Able to finally get something going over in the mid lane. It's gonna get worse though, man. SMITE drops an ultimate, but what does it matter? It buys time for the blink out. Nog over here in the mid lane helping out as well. No E2 lover. Low on that Omi. Back into the jungle it goes. These are those awkward moments where 5Ms make their money. Are we fighting? Are we not fighting? Are we in? Are we out? Lurking in the waters, used from Belway, and now Scream can maybe go back in. No, this time inbound looks like a full disengage, and just that one kill a few moments ago on the Fachicho.
And also getting that Naga, as that little distraction is happening in mid, Cherio does pick that up. Cherio actually looking to bully out Beltway here a little bit. Still had that ultimate available, does Cherry. I mean, I think if he does catch that there, maybe it looks like an all-in attempt, because Beltway's build, it's a late game styled build. Another dash in mid. Benny, ooh,
almost.
I mean, we have to like pause for the moment. There's a 90% chance Benny's hitting an ult like that.
Yeah, you'd think. Unfortunately, 10% for Benny Q here. Man, you know, we talked about Benny at what, 17.5 minutes hitting level 20 last game. We were all even for the first 8 minutes of this one. Now Benny Q 2 levels. All right, Fachicho catches up. So 1.5 levels would all say. The farming trend headed in the opposite direction from how things were in the first 10 minutes. 5Ms have stabilized and really done nicely for themselves. Cherio, when you get to this point, you're starting to proxy out. Things tend to be going well in your favor. We have not seen what we did in game 1, which is one of those really early Gold Furies. Maybe you start to send some of your team here towards left. You win a fight, you pick up a Gold Fury. But Malvinas not so far behind that they can't compete, and that was the case in game 1.
And even through this game so far, 5Ms, they're still picking up a decent farm lead. They've still invaded some of the buffs. They got that Naga, and I think that one big fight on the left side of the map where they ended up killing 3 and nobody died, that was an issue. Actually, Benny, a little out of position.
Yep, has to use the beads. World Weaver's in. All the shielding and the healing is simply too much. Cyclone Spin dashes in on the Danzaburo. And that's the first of the fight for 5M's. Riptide sends Fachicho back. And there's Benny on the snipe. We wanted to see it, and we finally got one. No E2 left running. Beltway left crying, and it's Cyclone Spin on another. Blink forward from Scream.
Body block.
Things have slightly been blown open here. No E2, goodbye. Double kill Cyclone Spin. Maybe a Gold Fury for an additional prize.
In a massive fight win there by 5Ms. The entire time also. Cherry's farming on the left side of the map, or the right side of the map, so not even forced on that rotation. They get a massive win. And Cherry, even with this proxy, there's no threat onto him. I mean, Ufel goes middle. Benny has no relic here, though.
We have just not seen these kills drop. Gotta get this one onto Benny Q. Backflip in, Fachicho. Probably 2 more autos needed, or just the shutdown onto Benny Q. Quick and easy. Had to happen. Slows down the momentum a bit. What is this from Cherry? Sends out the ultimate. Nearly picks up a kill on a Fachicho, but no dice. That'll still leave open this Gold Fury, but Malvinas inbound on the rotation in.
Yeah, and you actually have 4 here. PBM is the only one dropping it. Does look to take a little bit of damage.
They drop it.
Dropped.
They drop it. Can Malvinas now pick it up? This would be big in limiting some of that gold lead. Over in mid is Cherio. Don't have him in this fight. Dash out from Ufel. Fury's low. Flip a coin, and Malvinas gets it. Mike around the corner. Is there an additional fight to be had here? Everyone low on Malvinas. But without Benny Q, that follow-up maybe a bit limited from 5Ms. A good last couple minutes for Malvinas to limit some of the bleeding.
Getting that kill onto Benny opens up the possibility of Gold Fury. And honestly, a little maybe too over-aggressive by 5Ms. Benny's dying in mid. They pulled Gold Fury, but they just don't have the damage to do it there. So Malvinas, also very good awareness by them to make that rotation over and then commit to that Gold Fury. That's not an easy call to make.
No.
I mean, you lose that Gold Fury and you might be all down in the dumps mentally, but to be able to just sit there, call that, know that Mike has that Sunder and you're still going to play through it and secure it. I mean, you get those small advantages, you have to capitalize on them. Benny being dead, Cherry not rotating over. It was almost like a little, not disrespectful by 5Ms, but like a, just do it in front of us. Like, just see what happens. They call their bluff. They do secure it. So it's a nice play by Malvinas. And as you said, it slows down the game, which is the best part of that Gold Fury, because it's something that now 5Ms can secure. And that's only our first Gold Fury at 13 minutes.
Yep. Definitely a slower game than what we had in game. We were talking about how 5Ms could probably do fire if it were spawned at 13.5 minutes in game 1. Malvinas, though, I mean, still some work to do here. You're talking about maybe late game slanted builds. Got to avoid handing over easy kills. Pyro, quick pickup for 5Ms. And now, though, it seems Cyclone Spin, right as we're talking about how that Danzaburo doesn't like to be behind, feels like level-wise, gold-wise, build-wise, Cyclone Spin back in a point, or that rocket might start going forward instead of backwards.
And that's across the board. Every single lane is kind of really far ahead for 5Ms. Cherry, 2 levels up. You got a 2-level lead in mid lane also. SMITE looks for that blink in. Unfortunately, Naga lives 1 shot there now. I will say,
assassinated. And it's 5Ms on the front foot. That Riptide's not going to save no E2. SMITE left running as well. Where's the rocket? Land right in the back of the Malvinas jungler. And 5Ms, they get the neutral camp and a couple of kills. This is where this game went sideways over here in the jungle. Scream lives. Oh, that's brutal for Malvinas. Cherry through the wall. You fell down. 4 kills and neutral camps. 5Ms starting to regain themselves, continuing to regain themselves. Now starting to balloon things here inbound. Fire Giant may still be a 15-minute FG, regardless of the way this game started.
Getting that lead, they're starting to throw their weight around, looking for plays when they know they can force them. And with 4 here on this Fire Giant, really only Belway and Noitu Lover available here to try to steal.
Gotta have it. Gotta have a steal here if you're Malvinas. This game is starting to go all sorts of sideways. No E2, an afterthought as the Fire Giant dropped, turned, and burned by 5Ms. Beltway is going to be found out here by Cherry. I mean, working in the water, maybe you can get something done. SMITE back on the map as well. This is a slow FG.
S under too.
But you still have a real big lead here. Wow, Searing Pain out from BennyQ, lurking in the water from Beltway. So now you're not going to be able to steal it away with your ultimate. Looks like Malvinas going to back away. They do, and 5Ms get the FG. It was slow, it was awkward, but the outcome's still the same, and it's FG on all 5 of 5Ms.
And highlighting they got it on all 5 also. Scream is also farming that entire time, and now he's more than caught up. He's now got a 4-level lead there because he's not even forced to rotate to that fight because of how big of an advantage 5Ms had there with the deaths onto most of their team. And that's I mean, it doesn't look like the best Fire Giant, but that is a very good Fire Giant play there by 5Ms. They don't overcommit to it. They don't allow those 2 Sunders that both Beltway and Noitu Lover have. If somebody walks too far forward, we're going to try to kill them. And now they're splitting up a little bit. Cyclone taking a little bit of damage here, but maybe a fight on left.
Could be starting up. BennyQ. Oh, I think he hit it, but just didn't have enough damage by maybe 10 or 20. We've seen this a handful of times. Noitu left alone with the River's Rebuke up and crashing down around him. 5Ms able to find their way in anyway. 20 seconds left on that respawn, so you'll have time to get back up for that Phoenix defense if you need it. Somehow, only the 2nd Fury of the game. The first one goes to Malvinas. Remember that moment we were thinking maybe a turning point in this game. Get the Fury, you're able to get out alive. Been the opposite, unfortunately, for Malvinas. Our LATAM representatives, 5Ms starting to pick up the pace here in game number 2. Worth recontextualizing here in what could be the last few moments. 5Ms almost certainly on to Vegas, going 2-0 in their groups. I mean, there's tiebreakers, all that fancy stuff, but 2 wins tends to be that mark you're looking for with 3 teams making it out. On the flip side, though, not out yet if Malvinas end up losing this game. An opportunity, but you gotta win your next matchup, and you need some other matchups to go your way. So that's certainly probably in the back of their minds, 5Ms as well, realizing that big opportunity in front of them if they can break through this defense.
Yeah, and I expect 5Ms to play this a little slower. They have the sustain on Cherry. They have the sustain on BennyQ. They're just going to try to find something with the Ymir wall, with the Ymir freeze. Maybe this is the go button.
Cherio in. Look at the Pillars of Agony get done. It'll slow down no E2, that's for sure. You never want to die with your River's Rebuke up, and that's exactly what happens. BennyQ. Where's that Searing Pain? Oh, it's on to everyone! And what a setup! And what a knockdown from Cyclone Spin. This game ends in fireworks. Sub 20 minutes. Unreal from 5Ms. It was slow at the start, and it's fast at the finish. 5Ms, he'll take this one 2-0.
And that's just like the gas pedal pressed by 5Ms there. The early portion, as you said, I mean, that was almost all Malvinas, but the farming, how efficiently they play the map, where they look for their fights. 5Ms is a talented team. When they fall behind, they know how to get back into the game. They know how to split well enough. And Malvinas, I mean, yes, they did end up losing this game, but there's a lot to take from this second game. So. There's a lot of positives. I really liked UFEL's Cupid. I liked how aggressive they played in that duo lane. They get a little too hyper-focused on fight sometimes, and they just kind of give up a little bit too much farm. But positives all around past that first 5 minutes by 5Ms. They're a wonderful team when they get, kind of hot. They start heating up, and then they look for these sick combos like we just saw at the end. The Loki ult to set up the 3-4-man Raw ult, whatever it was. Beautiful to see.
Also, I'll correct I don't think it hit everyone. Maybe one miss on that Searing Pain. Can't give Benny too much credit. Is it really that one jungle fight in your mind where this game just kind of goes sideways?
Yeah, that's the one that starts bringing it back to 5Ms. Before that, Malvinas was the one that was making the plays, and then Cherry's rotation just blows up the game. Belway's not able to match it. He does, keep the lead, but he just doesn't have the items online to really rotate the fights and make as big of a plays. And that's kind of the value of full damage Hades. You get to one fight and you'll just one-shot someone, even if it's early game.
Yep. And we figured that this 5Ms team was going to make their way onto Vegas, just the way this roster's built, and one of the favorites through all of the qualifiers. Again, not, I guess, literally officially onto Vegas, but having a 2-0 advantage in your group when 3 teams make it out. Got to be feeling good about your chances, if not already certainly there. So 5Ms get it done cleanly here in game number 2. The Desk, they've got a lot to talk about. Hand it over to them.
Yeah, definitely a much better look, but what really matters...
Bobby gave me a wave.
What really matters, of course, is the victory, the 2-0. Feels really good for 5Ms.
Absolutely.
Charlie, a lot of the things that we were talking about going into this, about being excited for, and more notably than anything, is the Benny Q Raw, and I feel like it paid off.
Yeah, we did hype up the Benny Q Raw, and I'm glad that it lived up to some of those expectations. The snipes were crisp, but I got to agree with what the casters were saying. I mean, there was a lot of good in the early game there for Malvinas, but, and again, to Bobby's point, it did seem like fighting over farming was still that mindset, right? They found some kills, they tried to chase, they overstayed their welcome a bit towards some of those early gold furies. All the while, you can just tell that 5Ms is farming consistently. They are making sure to stay ahead in the game. Their gold per minute was, through the roof, and that's what we've come to expect from a squad like this. Even if they take a couple deaths early on, it's not really going to affect that late game outcome. They're going to be able to get there. And I've been loving the introduction of like Sunbeam bow to all these builds. Like Cyclone Spin especially has always been one to try new things, but this doesn't seem like something new that Cyclone's trying. Right? This seems like a staple in a lot of jungle builds. A lot of ADCs are starting to pick it up. It's gonna make DPS towards structures way higher in the early game. So definitely something to keep your eye on.
And much like the casters were saying at the very end, though, and I think very important to note here, is really just the difference right now. The gold numbers in game 1, and realistically yesterday for Malvinas as well, were 6K behind for a lot of individual players net worth overall. This one much closer. They have a lot more fight back. This, Charlie, again, they are in the group, and we'll look at the standings and the schedule a little bit later, but realistically, you're kind of hoping on some others' downfall now. You're hoping, I think, for Mockingbird to lose, so both of you are 0-2, and then you want to win tomorrow, which is going to give you the best chance to be able to take that third seed spot now that you're 0-2. That's kind of where you're going to be fighting for. Depending on how the next set goes, it could change everything. We could end up seeing, I think if certain things happen, 3 teams going 1-2, and then we get in the tiebreaker talk, but we got to live that if it happens. Think about it now, and we'll talk about that later. I think realistically, you did good in game 2, and you should be proud of that and moving forward. If you're 5Ms, they had already kind of mentioned it, Cherio said it, they want to get first so they can chill on Sunday. Yep. Maybe there's a little bit more to it than that, but realistically, I think that this is a team that has been playing well and kind of knows what they want to do and how well they've been doing and what gives them their success. So they've been sticking to it, and you don't have to take it from me. We got PBM standing over there ready for an interview.
That's right. It's Mike. It's Dave. Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, what's up?
Although I saw you
a
couple hours ago.
But as far as broadcast knows, yeah.
Right, this is the first time I've seen Mike in what feels like years. Mike, this one actually wasn't even a couple hours ago. A couple quick games for you guys. Game 1 felt a bit more methodical in your wheelhouse. Talk to me about what happened early in Game 2 and then the turnaround that really put things back in your favor?
Yeah, so Benny, he thought it'd be funny to kind of mess around a little bit in game one, and I think that really tilted me in spin. Ended up leading to spin, making a small mistake in the laning phase, and those guys really hammered us down after that.
Yeah, well, and Benny gets the Raw here in game 2, and unfortunately for you, and
what does Raw do? I actually didn't see.
It only did one thing that game, and it was a big searing line right at the end where it hit 2 or 3 enemy players and deals some damage.
Oh, it did do damage that game.
When you hit it, it does deal some
I thought it was maybe bugged. I didn't see it do any damage.
Yeah, no, it was a bug that he was missing, surely, right?
Oh, he was missing.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Oh,
you said
okay.
it.
We'll check the VOD.
We'll check the VOD. We'll look back. Well, it's only good things to look back and review on, Mike. What are some positive takeaways from your team this game?
You know, for us, we're just trying to. We're happy we're 4-0 at this point. We want to go 6-0. We want to 3-0 the group. We want to go in as the #1 seed out of our group. So it'll be interesting to see the next set and get ready for tomorrow.
Anyone take the Hades away from Cherio, you think?
It won't matter. He's our worst player. The guy's awful.
Man, unlucky. Maybe I ought to get Mike out of here before the team starts to have some drama before their final set of the weekend. Just kidding, Mike. It's a good showing from you guys. Always great to talk to you. And the desk will take it from here.
The real thing is that I feel like even if he said that like to Cherry'd probably go, yeah. You can tell though. I feel like not just jovial, but like you've got a group and a team. I think on 5Ms. That, you know, they can joke around like that, but realistically, like, all of them are really competitive as well. And that's kind of what you see when you go into those games. It doesn't matter who they're against. It doesn't matter if they think they're going to win. They're locked in. And that really has found them a ton of success so far.
I mean, I think that's part of the battle, just coming in with that confidence, and then everything else sort of meshes into place. And team name, but with 5Ms. I'll never forgive them for making that their team name. They always do come in with that level of confidence because they have the longest name by far, and I think that is another benefit of, you know, trying to go in with this undefeated, because when you go into a LAN like Vegas, knowing that you've already, you know, beat out your whole group in this case, if that's what they want and they don't take any L's in their games, they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, and maybe that'll just, you know, keep on going. You got to build a momentum in events like this.
Worth mentioning the first seed curse that has existed.
Yep.
The good news is that technically you've got first seed from 2 groups, so that means only one of them gets the curse, I think, or maybe you split it and then nobody loses. I don't know how that works, but there's always that to be worried about, which lasted for a long time there in the last few years of the Pro League. For Group A, though, that closes out set 1. We still have another one to go. And again, looking at the standings, right? If you're 2-0, your team name but with IVIMS, you're feeling pretty darn good right now. They still have gone on record saying that they want to make sure they win tomorrow's matchup as well versus Borscht. Just go 3-0, get that bye round, and move forward in Vegas so they don't have to play until January, and have a nice little holiday and little break in between. If you are now Malvinas, you are worried, maybe a little stressed, because you need some not only do or die moments for you, you need certain games to go certain ways to match things up. The biggest one is your game tomorrow, now versus Mockingbird, is a must-win.
You're preying on Mockingbird's downfall.
Yeah, you really hope Mockingbird loses next set for you, just to make sure that you're both 0-2. Then you can pretty much lock it in, right? Now 0-3 if you get the win. Same thing goes for Mockingbird, depending on how the next one goes. If Mockingbird win, though, you're also rooting. You still have to win the next game, but then you're rooting on Borscht up against team name but with 5Ms to hope that everyone's 1-2, and then I think at that point that's when the head-to-heads are all kind of in a triangle, and then you have a 3-way tie, and as long as everybody's 2-0 and there's not like one extra game in there, and there's plus-minuses that are all the same, then we enter the equation of making sure that everybody, or the tiebreaker games. But you see and hear how long-winded that was to get to tiebreaker games.
Yep.
That's because it's kind of hard to do, and it all just depends on 3 matchups that are still left to be played. So it's a lot to put your hopes on, and so maybe eyes just on that matchup tomorrow morning, regardless of what happens for Malvinas. If they want to continue, if they want to go to Vegas, they have to win that one.
Yeah, that's do or die for them. And again, even if they win, they still have to hope that there's other losses on the way, and that's what happens when you go into a round robin like this. So you unfortunately are in a position where it's not just in your hands anymore, but you got to win who's in front of you. That's also the bottom line. Whatever you're lined up against, there's no more lives. 0-3 is that's a death sentence for just about anyone.
We've talked about them needing to win and preying on others' downfalls, and some of those others are going to be playing relatively soon. Borscht and Mockingbird is the set that's up next. One that I think is really going to be interesting, Mockingbird.
Yep.
I guess took some lumps yesterday, right, with a loss, but realistically, this is a team that has shown not only growth but capabilities.
Yep.
I think I don't even want to say out of nowhere. They just really skyrocketed in EMEA. Same thing goes for Borscht. I think these are two teams that come in maybe considered quote-unquote underdogs from their region, if you can even say that when they're in the top 3. But they are some powerhouses and going to be an absolute blast to watch. So make sure that you stay tuned, because after this quick break, we're going to be back with Borscht versus Mockingbird.